So how did I hear about Ally? I got an email from Miso Robotics, which is a company, a massive robotics company, and they've invested in this robotics company. I'll tell you a bit of the backstory. I'll go through this, we'll look at it a little bit, and then I'll look at the actual investment opportunity, and we'll talk that through. So firstly, Miso community, we're reaching out to share an update on Ally Robotics Series A investment round. Ally is a startup developing smart and affordable robotic arms for the fast-growing collaborative robotics marketplace. Miso actually signed a statement of intent to purchase robotic arms for them for Flippy 2. If you haven't seen Miso Robotics, I've got loads of videos on them, including an AGM with the founders and everything. For me, it's gone up 10x, or maybe a bit less, 8 to 9x for me. For others, it's gone up 30x or 50x or 100x. So Miso Robotics are doing very well in the restaurant space. Anyway, Miso says they've signed an agreement. It's got the potential to reduce the cost of the robotic arms in Flippy's units by 30%. And to meet this incredible demand, and they have a huge amount of demand for Miso Robotics products from pretty much every restaurant chain you've ever heard of globally, to a certain extent. They need a supply chain partner like this, and that's Ally. So what about Ally? Well, smart and robotic affordable arms. They're just to make this more to solve real human workflow problems through simple tech. We'll look at it in a moment. Big opportunity. Most people expect robotics and automation to solve the labor crisis, but the robots of today are too expensive, right? So this is to produce it a cheaper solution. Their IP, modular joint design, enables increased power, the ability to lift things and move things, torque, the ability to twist and move around, and the ability and the capability for same size motors, reduce manufacturing costs through position sensors and software to enhance the accuracy of standard components, mobile, compact, and lightweight, highest payload, broadest arm maneuverability in its class, enables customer applications that are difficult to achieve with currently available robotics arms. So this is best in class robotics solutions. The technology covered in the patents is at the core of their product and represents the work of their industry-leading engineers. The first filing is the most important step, protecting their intelligent systems, current and future applications. Before clicking on the investment thing, let's just have a look at their website. Or is it going to click to the investment website? I think it might click to the investment website. All right, so you can see here, let's download this. We'll open that in a moment, but here's the video. Let's make the screen a bit brighter. There we go. Oh, what am I doing? Go away. Here we go. So they've locked in 30 million. That's from Miso Robotics' first order. Now imagine if Miso grows. I think it will grow. How many orders could they get for this product? As you can see, it's a movable arm, and I presume that things can be added on to that. So it can be a lifter, a grabber, a welder, a solderer, a mover of things. I don't know, it could be lots of things. So as you can see here, they've got a cool GIF, moves around very easily. Shows you the arm there. Shows that they do software as well as hardware. So that's doing pick and pack, which is good for factories and delivery, warehouses. See if there's anything else. I saw somewhere there was like a soldering iron, but I don't know if that's in this at all. Maybe not. New Robotics Platform. It's a robotics arms kind of as a service, I guess. So they're able to reduce the costs roughly 30% compared to other producers. That's a big. When these are so expensive, that's a big amount. Single hands effect can accommodate the majority of human workflow automation, develop novel low-cost robotic joints designed from day one with manufacturability and affordability in mind, using low-cost materials. software, leading edge AI, reinforcement learning, no code programming for real world robotics, imitation learning, behaviors and tasks. I guess that's machine learning and big data, etc. Massive labor shortage of 650,000 people in the US. So there's a big, thing here. So expert team of path breakers. These are ex-Miso Robotics staff. Industry partner, $30 million already committed by Miso Robotics. Groundbreaking technology, unique hardware and software. Here is the soldering iron. So you can see that it'd be quite good in all sorts of different markets. So collaborative and service robots companies for both industrial and non-industrial tasks in the 114 billion market. If they're the lowest cost producer and they've got product market fit in the restaurant space, as well as they've got use cases right in front of your eyes for pick and pack and manufacturing and in factories, etc., they could do very well. Watch the raise and tail. Common shares offered. It's a Series A at $2.7 per share. Minimum investments 1,000 with a target of 5 million. The leadership team. So Mitch, he was a technical advisor at Miso Robotics. He's got 32 years of entrepreneurial engineering experience, prior experience at these big companies, including Microsoft. Excellence in Engineering Award. He's a volunteer and mentor. He's got lots of things in mechatronics and engineering. David, Microsoft, Gap, Nokia, MBA, etc. He's in the COO. CTO has 19 years experience with software and AI and hardware. Black & Decker, passionate servant leader. And is a C-suite exec, as a board member. He's got an engineering degree as well. So let's have a look at what happens. You have to go through this process. Now, I've already done it. I've completed this basically. So I've bought it, and you get a subscription agreement if you agree to invest. Now, what about, I'm going to see if I can find the documentation. Don't know where it's gone. 1 second. Bear with me. Here's the document. So this is the document. I'm going to go through it briefly. If you don't want to hear me going through this whole document, you spin to the end of the video or to later on in the video where I go through my opinion and other things. Okay. So without further ado, it's regulated by the Securities and Exchange Commission. That's important. That's useful, especially for a small company. So it's going to talk through a lot of negative things because they kind of have to legally mention all the risks. And I've looked through this, and I want to talk through it here. Stick with me, stick right to the end, and you can understand my logic as well. Right. So part of the implications of being a small company is they have less than 1 billion in total gross revenues. An emerging company, blah, blah, blah. So they get in some kind of blah, blah, blah. I'm not quite sure what the implications of emerging growth company means in this contract, to be honest. If there's anybody who's looking at this documentation in this video, then please let us know if you know anything about this Business Startups Act of 2012 and emerging growth company. We could potentially look at it at the end of the video, actually, so stick around. Okay, let's have a quick look. Summary of the offering. This is for Ally Robotics, also known as Super Armco Incorporated. That's what it was. It's referred to as Ally Robotics Incorporated. So the overview is it's building a reliable, smart, and safe, lightweight robotic arm, which we saw earlier on in the video. Our team has a wealth of experience. They've worked for Miso Robotics, etc. They're backed by Miso Robotics. We'll talk about that later, and by Wavemaker Labs. We'll talk about that later as well. Premium Robotics and Automation Corporate Innovation Studio, based in Bellevue, Washington, and they're working on their first prototypes. To date, Ally has no revenue. So there you go. There's the first warning sign. It's a going concern, and there's substantial doubt about the company's ability to continue as a going concern. Obviously, that's pre this raise. They've got virtually no money at the moment. After this after this raise, they'll have a ton of money. So that's quite important as well. Restaurant industry overview. Miso Robotics is helping to disrupt the 232 billion QSR, quick service restaurant industry and fast food industry. There's growing health and safety concerns, there's low margins, there's a squeeze on workers, a labor crisis, all sorts of problems, and Miso solves that problem. Ally Robotics will begin with commercialization in the restaurant industry, where there's massive demand. Potentially, Ally customers can be roughly broken down into two categories. They're saying service robotics companies and collaborative robotics companies. Service robotics perform useful tasks for human beings outside the industrial or factory space, while collaborative robotics do the same, but in the industrial and factory space. Combined global market is 33 billion in 2021, and is expected to grow to at least 113 billion by 2027. That's pretty good. It's like nearly 4x growth in the market in the billions by 2027, about 5 years from time of filming this video. Developing the first working prototype arm, and they're going to be testing it with Miso Robotics this year. And they want production-ready version complete by 2023, at which point they're going to be scaling manufacturing, likely with external contract manufacturing partners. So they're even going to outsource the production if they're going to scale, which is interesting. Here are some of the risks. They're early stage, no revenue. Any valuation is difficult to assess at this point. They've got limited operating history. Technology is not fully developed. They'll require additional money in the future. They don't have any patents at the moment, rely on a small management team. Failure to attract and retain qualified people could harm the business. Future revenue plans rely on purchases from existing robotics companies, including the partner with Miso Robotics. We may not find suppliers to manufacture the machines. Now, let's look at those individually. Oh, there's even more. The business model is capital intensive to begin with. It'll only pay out if it pays out, if that makes sense. If it does well, it will do incredibly well. If it doesn't do well, it will go busto. It could be adversely affected by products liability, injury, or health and safety issues. Presumably, insurance will cover that. They may need to raise additional capital. They've already mentioned that. We may never have an operational product or service. You'd expect them to, with the level of depth and knowledge they have, especially with Miso Robotics, who's a big partner. Certain data information is from third-party sources and it's not independently verified. So there's some information and data risk there. In terms of one's ability to do due diligence, but it is early in investing in this company. There's no current market for any of these shares as it's private. Let's look at the terms. Maximum of 3 million shares at $1,000 as the minimum investment of 370 shares. Common stock, 7.1 million shares. Preferred stock, 0. Common stock is 10 million shares, 10.2 million shares. Investors in this offering will grant an irrevocable voting proxy to our president that will limit their ability to vote for their shares until the occurrence of certain events specified in the proxy, none of which may occur. Let's see. Proceeds will go to product dev, personnel, and general overhead. Right, so we go down. I'm not going to go into every risk factor here because I think it's lengthy. You can read it. If you want, you can ask me and I will share this with you. This is in my Google Drive under this file name. If you want access, comment in the YouTube comments with your Gmail and I'll share access to this risk profile. They're talking about COVID-19 as a risk. Let's look at this. So these classes options, there are options there. There will be some dilution. Of course, after this offering, there'll be 12 million shares. Of course, there's going to be dilution. You know, this is a Series A. There are ways to mitigate against this, you know, by weighting the average amount of investment you put into the at different stages as the company grows. But it can work out pretty well if you invest a lot early on, if the investment does well, of course. So, you know, dilution is only a problem if you're not, you know, if you care about dilution, for number one, and if you don't invest a lot at the start. If you're only investing a little bit at kind of Series C, Series D, Series E, your shares aren't going to be worth that much and you'll be diluted more. I'm not an expert on dilution, but I know that if you, in my experience, if you invest early on, you get quite a lot of rewards. And yeah, you'll be diluted, but you know, you kind of don't mind if the pie is growing a lot. Like if this goes up 1,000 times, yeah, if my share of the shares, like if I invest about 400, I get about 400 shares. if that is diluted by people, by share scripts or dilutions through the rounds, but also through when the stock splits, I'll have less percentage, but I'll have more shares and they'll be valued at more value. So dilution is kind of almost like a theoretical aspect. It can be material if, for example, with the Facebook, I work for Facebook, by the way. But if you are an owner in a company and you own 10% and you don't reinvest and you get screwed over, that dilution can have an immediate impact. If you're a serious investor and you're investing serious money throughout the rounds, especially a decent amount at the start, then hopefully, unless they're not doing something crazy and it's just normal dilution, if it does well and it goes up 100x or 200x or 300x, you're still going to do very well. Okay. Let's have a look at this. So this is on the different raises. If they raise less than $1 million, the net proceeds they'll get is like 800,000, so 795,000, and the net tangible book value pre-financing will be not a lot. Actually, that stays consistent actually, but they get more as they raise more. This kind of makes sense. At 4.25 million, they actually get 4.16, so it's pretty good. But they'll issue the most shares if they get 8.5 million. Now the target is actually 5 million. Because this is like a private raise, and the only way you'll know about this is if you A, know the company founders, or B, somehow subscribe to Miso Robotics updates, or if you're an investor in Miso Robotics. I'm an investor, which means I've got a really early access to Ally. And if you're watching this video, you're one of the lucky few who's going to get access to this, because there's virtually no way you'd know about this company unless you were somehow connected in those aforementioned different ways. Okay, so pre-financing, they got 9.2 million. Post, it'll be between 10 and 12 million. We already know that. Dilution per share to new investors, there's a percentage here. So, sometimes if you want to keep your stake the same, then you need to invest a bit more. It kind of doesn't matter if the stock goes up 100x. It's valued at, what is it valued at the moment? Like 10 million or something. It could easily be valued at $1 billion, that'd be 100x. It could be valued at 10 billion, that'd be 1,000x. Let's look at some other things here. There is some dilution stuff that I'm not that interested in. I'm interested in a company that could 100x or maybe more. So if I get diluted a little bit, I don't mind if it goes up 100x. There is some more stuff here with stock options, and if options come into play, then there's even more dilution. This can and does happen. It even happens if you're an investor in a big company. Guess what? The directors get share options and you get diluted. So it happens in every company. Future dilution, there'll be some examples here. I'm not going to go through it. Where they're going to spend the money, I think this is quite important. Development, payroll, admin, and marketing. The business history, they basically incorporated very recently, November 2021, so it's less than a year ago. It's actually about 9 months ago, something like that, 9-10 months ago at the time of recording this video. So they've been in business less than a year. And that's another reason to consider subscribing to my channel. I'm finding some of these companies that are new, this is at the seed stage. This is a tiny fundraise, to be honest. Actually, it's not tiny, it's a tiny company, but it's a significant fundraise. If they raise 5 to 8 million and they've got no revenue, this is quite an early stage company to invest in. So they've been working with Miso Robotics, blah, blah, blah. Mitch, one of the founders, understood Miso's was planning to address needed cost reductions to scale. So they kind of split it out. They created initial designs and a business model. Miso signed a non-binding statement of intent to purchase 30 million worth of Ally Robotics arms into Flippy and maybe Flippy 2 possibly as well by early 2022. Ally has scaled the R&D team, produced early concepts, prototypes, and appearance models. So I have a lot of faith in what the videos they've shared, and it looks very, very good. Keep watching because there's some other interesting things and very valuable things that I'm going to share later on in this video. Form factor is perfect for companies which are simply adding robotic workers in spaces previously occupied by humans, such as frying stations and fast food restaurants like Miso Robotics. Two factors driving product dev is being affordable and being smart. And I think they've got that. If they do this raise, they're going to be able to scale very affordably. They use like deep reinforcement learning, or like this is kind of ML, machine learning algorithms for their arms to learn very well and fast. So basically, like implementing this deep reinforcement learning and AI models further trains the simulation data and real world testing data, further kind of advancing their robotics arms intelligence. So that means that basically customers, like based on this logic, customers will be able to buy a robotic arm, and using probably the data sets that Ally provides, the arm should know kind of, some of those use cases quite well. So imagine like fast food company, a bit like Tesla with the full self-driving, they'll have a lot of data points, and Ally could have like, so many data points. If it can install them via Miso Robotics into like hundreds of thousands of restaurants, they're going to have a lot of data to work with. So they're going to be the smartest arm. They could be the smartest arm producers in the world. Hardware. Quasi-direct drive actuators, 30% the cost of traditional actuators. I don't know what that is, but it's obviously a big component of this arm. They've developed this novel low-cost robotic joint system with a double torque and zero velocity loss. I'm not sure what that means, but it sounds good. And I could get bashed or smashed in the comments here by saying I don't know a lot about this, but keep watching, because there's an important point that I want to mention about the reasons why I'm confident about Ally and why my lack of knowledge is not a particular downside in this way, or how it can be mitigated. I'll carry on. So they've got a hand grip and effector, which they believe can accommodate the majority of human workflow automation. So they want it to be low cost because they're using low cost materials, and they've got the software. They're using AI and reinforcement learning. They're going to have minimal traditional programming required, like a no-code solution, but for the real world. They're going to target basically the restaurant market first, and then the robotics market, like the wider, I guess, factory industrial space and manufacturing. The go-to-market strategy, phase one, we're focused on supplying Miso Robotics. There we go. That's one reason why I feel I'm so confident. Miso have to scale. They've raised maybe 50, maybe 100 million kind of in all-time funding, and they need arms. They need robotic arms to scale, and they want smart robotic arms. So if Ally can be the person that's like sourcing and manufacturing and designing the arms, then that's a great partner to have, and it kind of lifts a lot of the weight and the load off of Miso and allows them to scale. So once they have a production version ready, they plan for early 2023, plan to begin contract manufacturing units at scale. So basically, once they've nailed like a lot of the hardware and software, they can actually outsource it to actually produce the arms, because the actual the value is in the data and is in their automation and their AI and their use cases, and obviously the contracts with someone like Miso Robotics. And they say it here, the trusted relationship with our pilot partner is vital, because we will continue to work with Miso Robotics to refine the Ally product with their feedback. As units are integrated and deployed with the Flippy product line, by 2025, we expect to have achieved our target robotic arm, our cost savings compared to the current off-the-shelf robotics. So it's going to be staged. They probably can't do the cost savings immediately, but in 2 to 3 years, they might be able to, and they anticipate at least 30% cost of reduction. After refining the model with Miso, they plan to expand aggressively with customers in the collaborative and service robotic space looking for affordable, lightweight, smart robotic arms. Potentially industry focus include restaurant and hospitality, and then maybe QSR, manufacturing, welding, assembly, machine tending, healthcare. Could go on and on. Competition, they have some competition. two dimensions, affordability and intelligence. Using their method, they're able to group competitors currently producing robotic arms or supplying software to control robotic arms. The first are companies making smart, artificial intelligence-driven software, but they're not making hardware. This includes Covariant, Right Hand Robotics, and Vicarious. While the software being developed is world-class, these companies are forced to support their current hardware on the market, which remains extremely expensive and only able to operate at scale on a relatively limited set of industrial use cases. Second group of companies, the large traditional industry leaders such as KUKA, ABB, Fanuc, and Yaskawa. Yaskawa I've actually heard of, they're very good. These companies produce very successful products. However, their products are not affordable, smart, nor are they mostly lightweight. These robots are predominantly purchased by large companies with scale manufacturing operations and massive budgets like Toyota, Foxconn, and LG Electronics. These companies are willing to pay top dollar to employ robots to move heavy objects or complete tasks requiring exacting precisions or both. These companies can also afford teams of software engineers and operators who can program and maintain integrated robotic systems. However, these companies' products are far too expensive and too overbuilt for places like the service and hospitality industry or light manufacturing. These last group of competitors are building lightweight and affordable hardware, but they're not delivering smart software. Companies like Haddington Dynamics and Universal Robotics fit into this category, while Ally's hardware is similar to their products. Competitors in this group do not deliver smart and adaptable software, still requiring engineering and operational support. Most businesses cannot afford. What does that mean? It means in the QSR sector, in leisure, in hotels, these people have small margins. They're not like big companies like Toyota that have fat, massive global margins and big software teams already. You know, if you're LG, you've got a software team that can work on this. You've got a robotics team that can work on it. Guess what? McDonald's don't have a software team. They don't have robotics teams at the moment. You know, they're going to need people like this. And if you think of the SME market, where there's probably lots of companies out there that might have 10 or even in the US, maybe 100 stores, QSR or fast food restaurants, they might have 2 or 3 of these robots potentially in the future. And, you know, there's loads and loads of those companies, probably millions of those companies worldwide. So there's, they've only got a small team at the moment, but of course they can hire. I'm going to skip a little bit. You can always pause the video if you want to read it, of course, or you can ask me in the comments for the link and I'll share it with you. This is compensation at the moment. It's pretty slim. It's still high, but you know, over 200,000. It's not in the millions yet. It's the CTO and CEO. These are important roles. So I don't think they're being ridiculous with their earnings at the moment. Let's look at the share breakdown. This is another reason why I like this. 93% owned by Miso. Now, Miso, they're going to get diluted as well, of course, when other investors come along. But it's good that Miso is invested in this. Number one, it means they're incentivized to use Ally. And if Miso does well, Ally will do well. And if you've missed out on Miso, you've missed out on the 10x, the 25x, the 50x, the 100x that Miso's already gone through. You might be able to get in by investing in Ally. Who else? Wavemaker Labs is like another company. It's like the parent company to Miso. It's like the VC firm behind Miso, and that's 7% owned. Owns 7% of the company of Wavemaker. They have a 7% holding. Sorry. Okay, so that's like 99%. That's held directly. And of the other shares, Mike Bell, who's the CEO of Miso Robotics, owns 20%. Kevin Morris, I think, is on Ally's side. David Harder and Aaron Brown, I think these guys are owned at Ally's side. So they own roughly 4%, 5% of the total company shares. They're going to get more shares through options. So that's going to incentivize them further, as well as the fact that these guys are going to go through raises and raises. And of course, I reckon Miso is going to keep investing. Wavemaker is going to keep on investing, and so is Mike Bell. They're going to keep investing in Ally as Miso grows. They're going to see that it's working, and I'd be very surprised if they don't invest. So there's 5 persons with common stock, and I guess that's the employees, and maybe it's Mike Bell as well. Potentially, there's 23% right there. So they might own I don't know, these like the Ally people might own 3 to 5% each potentially. I think Mike Bell probably owned 25% directly, and the rest at Miso and Wavemaker, with a range of different people involved there, including me. You know, my holding, my Miso Robotics holding, you know, already owns a bit of this company already, you know, 92%. So even if you don't want to own it, if you're a Miso Robotics shareholder, you do own a bit anyway. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing now, or I'm going to go through it quickly. Is there anything else that's important? There's probably tons. This is a 45-page document. I'm not going to go through it all on this call. I'm going to stop sharing my screen there. Sorry if I'm a little bit dark, but what do I think? I think that like the way it's structured, as I mentioned, if Miso does well, I think that Ally's going to do very, very well. And if you've missed out on the growth of Miso Robotics, this could be a really good way to get in. Are there risks? Yeah, there's a boatload of risks. They haven't got revenue. They haven't got customers. But the reason why I like this is because I don't know about robotics space like massively. I've invested in Miso and invested in a couple of other robotics startups, but I'm not a world-class expert on this. But who are? Well, Mike Bell is. He's the CEO of Miso Robotics and Wavemaker Labs. He knows about it, and he's investing a boatload in the company. Now, he's got like about, it looks like about 95% of the whole company, something like that, either via Miso Robotics, a direct holding, or Wavemaker Labs. So he has a lot of faith in this company. Now, that's pretty good validation. Does it always work? No, it doesn't. You know, I thought I invested in Fishing Republic, which was backed by Terry O'Leary, the former CEO of Tesco globally. It went bust. It doesn't always work. And, you know, small companies do fail. What are the upsides? Well, I would not be surprised if Miso Robotics continues to do well. Let's say Miso goes from, right now it's valued at 500 million. Let's say it's in the future, it goes up 100x or something like that, 200x, and you know, it's valued a lot. You know, let's say it goes up and it's valued at 100 billion or 50 billion. Let's say so it goes up 100x or 200x, and you're watching these videos in 2023 or 2024 or 2025. You might have missed the boat a little bit, but Ally, if you're watching this video, you know, in the future in 2023, 2024, 2025. It might still be quite a small company. You know, I think it's valued at maybe 10 million now, but it might be valued at 50 million, you know, in 2 years' time, or 100 million in 3 years' time. So you still have a chance to get in and get some of that growth because it's a key supplier. In investing terms, it's sometimes known as investing upstream, because you're investing upstream in the supply chain. So like you might have heard the expression that that if you went to mine gold in the gold rush, you didn't do well, but the ones that sold axes did well. And Ally is the one that's selling the equipment to Miso and to other companies, and I think will do quite well. So what's my outlook on it? I think it's asymmetric. It could go bust 100%. It could go bust. This is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor, as I say in my disclaimers for the videos, but what am I going to do? I'm going to invest. Unfortunately, I don't have as much money as I would like to invest in this company. I've just got married 1 week ago, 8 days ago, in time of filming, and I don't have as much as I'd like to put in. So I'm only putting in a small amount, but I am investing, and I do think there's good growth with this. I'd love to put in, you know, a 5-figure sum. I can't afford to put in a 5-figure sum at the moment because of the wedding, but I like this company. I think it has massive growth potential within the restaurant sector, within Miso, within manufacturing, within leisure potentially, within, you know, picking and packing and all sorts of different use cases. Guys, I hope you enjoy these videos. I don't know if anyone else on the internet is doing these kind of videos. I'm pretty sure when I looked for it, there wasn't one video on Ally Robotics, even from the company. So I might be the only person in the entire world making videos about Ally Robotics. But anyway, I like to be first. It's always nice. And this is I guess it's a reference in time. You know, I might be completely wrong, and maybe Miso Robotics goes bust and maybe Ally goes bust. But I'm saying there's a risk. I think there's massive upside. I also think there's downside potential. I'm investing in both Miso Robotics and Ally Robotics, and I have faith in both. I think it could be almost like the Tesla of the robotics. I think that Mike Bell could be seen as a visionary CEO in 10 or 20 years from now, as maybe the grandfather, or the father at least, of modern robotics as a service. Wouldn't be surprised if that's the case. The time I'm filming it might seem a little bit strange. Maybe in 10 years it's reviewed and looked back as being, actually to have taken place. Who knows? I have been wrong in the past though, so let's see. I hope you enjoy these videos. If you do, make sure to like and subscribe. As I've already mentioned, they're basically the only place on the internet that you can get videos like this about companies that I find out about. Will I be able to find out about every company in the world? No. Will I have the time to make videos about every company in the world? No. But I will be making videos about companies that I believe will have good success, or companies that are worth making videos about. If there's any videos that you'd like me to make about any investments or startups or companies that you'd like me to cover, let me know in the comment section below. I'll try to add it to my caseload of videos to create in the future. If you're interested in supporting the channel, then consider clicking the link in the description about investing on platforms such as Seedrs and Crowdcube. There might be a referral link. If you invest, I think it's £150 or dollars in a 1 month period, you get £25 for free. And so do I. That's one way you can support the channel. In the future, I might have a Discord link where you can join my community. Of course, subscribing here and checking out my other channels. I think I'm on Facebook. So check out all of those as well. Like and subscribe. Progress is everything. Knowledge is power, especially the right kind of knowledge, and progress is everything. I'll see you guys in the next upcoming video. Take care.